You can stay where you are for now. We'll move after this section, okay? So just stay put for now if you don't mind. We're going to be talking about actually providing this feedback to the teachers. Okay, so we're going to be talking about providing this feedback to the teachers, and we want to make sure, I just want to remind you of the 3 types of statements that we want to make. So when you go into this post-observation conference, that teacher's nervous. From the minute you walk out the door, he or she is ready for the feedback. And you know that because you've been observed, and as soon as that person shuts the door, you're like, where's my data? I want it now, right? Make sure you take the time to go through what you just did and process. Make sense of what you've written, translate it if you need to put it into English, if what you started with was not English. But then make sure going into the conference that you're prepared to give all 3 types of statements. We have language stems, just like we had them for the pre-observation conference. We have new ones for the post-observation conference. So same 3 categories of statements for validating, I saw you made an effort too. Okay, you're just acknowledging, hey, you really made this effort. I see it, it was there. During the lesson, Michael gave the wrong answer and you asked him to explain his thinking. He realized his error and was able to correct it. This gave him a chance to learn from the mistake. Hey, that was a good teaching moment. So you're just validating the teacher that something good happened in the room. You're going to have, and I said this earlier, you're going to have that teacher sometimes who needs lots of validation, and then sometimes you're going to have that teacher who doesn't need all the validation. So just kind of find out where their comfort zone is and work with it. Then you're going to have clarifying statements. So can you remind me how? Let's look at this. What evidence do you see? Can you explain what you meant by? Getting them to talk through. Someone earlier said that the clarifying statements were often questions. Same thing here. Sometimes you're just asking that question to get them to clarify. And then finally, stretch and apply. So talk to me about, tell me about, did the homogeneous grouping for this lesson help or hinder? So getting them to think through that, hey, was there a better way to do this? What parts of the lesson are you most pleased? Did your students have any misconceptions? Again, just getting them to stretch beyond what happened and think about other ways that it could have happened. I think it was you said learning to be self-reflective. So we want to make sure that they're reflecting back on what happened, not just waiting for us to tell them what happened, that they're actually thinking through it. So think about what makes feedback easy or hard to receive. Think about a time that you have received feedback and maybe not received it so well, or maybe it was really easy to receive. What were the factors that influenced that?
Timing.
Timing? How so?
So when we talk, we're kind of like a little class where the students around, somewhere private, somewhere where maybe the end of the day where things can just unwind a little bit.
Yeah.
Not on the spot.
So you're not wanting to have that discussion with the person when somebody might hear, particularly students, and it needs to be enough time to really sit down and absorb it, right? Okay, what else?
The amount of particularly negative, if it's like, 15 things that were not effective, maybe focus on a couple for that lesson.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. Someone said, don't you want to fix everything? And I said, no, I don't want to fix everything now because then the teacher's going to run out the door. So if I fix 3, and then I know that I've got 12 more to go, look at that math, I've got 12 more to go, and that can happen, I'm going to chunk it so that we're going to improve, and hopefully the teacher's going to start looking at the data and realize that, I got 12 more things I can work on, maybe not that clearly, but start to recognize some of that. Yes?
I think if it's clear feedback as well, I heard something recently that like the sandwich method isn't as effective as we think, like a positive and then a negative in the middle and then follow up with a positive because you're not as clear about that. I don't want to call it negative, but the thing that you need to work on.
Yeah.
So just being clear about areas of improvement.
Yeah, it's not always validate, stretch and apply, validate. Sometimes it's validate, 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 clarify, stretch and apply. So use those double arrows. Yes?
I think what can make feedback difficult when I look at some of the different ways we can give the feedback is choosing the one that suits you the best. Because when I look at some of them, I know I couldn't use them. Because even the one that you have on the chart that was just describing the child, the one in the blue jacket, the one in the yellow jacket, if I don't sit down with that person that same day to talk about that particular class that I just watched, if it's going to be next week or if it's a Friday and we need to wait until Monday, the teacher might not remember who was in the blue jacket, who was in the red jacket, and I might not remember either. So I think a part of the difficulty I can perceive is making sure we use the right tool that will suit both us and also the mentee.
The importance of sitting down with that rubric, determining what tool collects the right data, knowing what the focus is and aligning those things so that everything you're doing is intentional. It's not just, oh, I'm going in to do an observation, let me grab some paper, right? You've really thought through the process. All right, 2 more. Yes?
I think one thing as well that's hard about receiving feedback, difficult feedback or whatever, is that if that teacher has already asked for support in that area, and then as a mentor, I go in to observe her and I tell her that these are the issues, and she said, okay, I went to administration about this, I went to the instructional coach, I know I need help here. You know what I mean? So I think that makes feedback difficult, and I think that probably happens often.
Yeah. And it may be that if you've established a trusting relationship with that person in the pre-observation conference, you already know that. And so hopefully you've already come in with some support and some help, and he or she knows that, hey, we're just going to continue to work on this and get better. And so they're not going to have that resistance built up with you. All right, and then the last one.
I was just going to say, it's approach. It's always about how you say what you're going to say. You draw more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. So, I always think about, you can, like, one person can say the same thing to the same person, and you get a different response because it's how that person actually approached the situation.
Yeah.
So the approach is always a situation that may cause someone to have, it'd be difficult to receive the feedback from.
Yeah, and I would say in that approach, verbal and nonverbal, right? And in the same way, Todd said he's not just the person who sits there and smiles, and so he has to be cognizant of that. You also don't want to be the person with the fake smile plastered on your face, because then it's not genuine, right? So you want to find that balance of, hey, I'm friendly, but I'm not that creepy person staring at you with a smile on my face. Okay. One thing that, we've talked a lot about is that relationship, and when that person trusts you, that feedback is going to be so much easier to receive because they know you're coming from a good place. They know, regardless of approach, regardless of 15 things that you have to cover or whatever it is, they trust you to be there to improve their practice, and they're going to welcome that in. But I will caution you to ask for permission. Ask them if they're ready for their feedback, because even though you've set this meeting time, you don't know what happened that day. They could have had their first fight in the classroom. Their cat could have been run over that morning. Who knows? Any number of things. Or they could just be having one of those days where they're having all those social, emotional feelings that we've talked about, and it's really not the right time. So even though you said, hey, I'm coming in a Tuesday at 3 o'clock and we're going to sit down and talk, you get there and they're teary. It's like, do you want to do this another time? Should we reschedule? It's okay. Work with them on that, okay? Make sure they're ready. And the other aspect of that is when you're asking them, are you ready to receive your feedback? They're inviting it in. They're saying, yes, I'm ready for this. I want it. And that's a different approach than just saying, here's your feedback. Because now it's like, oh, I'm giving this and you have to take it. Whereas the other way, the person's saying, yes, give it to me, okay? Monitor critical feedback, so we want to make sure we're not just, hey, here's 15 things you did wrong. We're coming in with, some validation and whatnot, and making sure that we're not judging at all. We are not saying this is a bad lesson, this lesson didn't work. We're just, here's what happened. This is your data. Let's look at it together. Let's process it. What do you see? And then make sure that you're encouraging that reflection. We've talked about that a lot. We've also talked about the value of silence, pausing, letting things sink in, letting the mentee talk, paraphrasing. So they say something, repeat it back to them. What I'm hearing you say is, make sure that you're actually hearing what they're saying. And we talked earlier about active listening, so we want to make sure that we truly are listening and then making that comment. So these are attributes of effective feedback, and we've already addressed one of them. The first one is clear. right? Making sure that what we have to say is clearly expressed so that there's no confusion, that it's targeted. We had a focus area. Let's say we were going in for a balance of students on questioning, and we get in there and we realize there are classroom management issues. Our focus was balance of students. Our feedback needs to be on balance of students. Not to say that there's not going to be some data there for the teacher to see on classroom management, but that's not where we're going. That's where we're going to get the teacher to go, right? We're going to prompt using our dialogue and our language stems. It's objective, so again, no judgment, timely, which we talked about, but also you want it to be close enough to the observation that it matters. If you've ever been observed and then not gotten feedback for 6 months, like that was 6 months, you could have been doing something different and you didn't, and now it doesn't mean anything. So now you get the piece of paper and you're like, it's okay, what I'm doing works. So you want it to be close enough. I would say no more than 48 hours, 72 at the most, so that it still matters and the teacher can still make improvements. And then actionable. You should be walking out of that conference with TLOs set, which we're going to talk about, with action steps and goals. So that when that teacher leaves that conference, he or she is not just like, well, I have to do better next time. That teacher is like, wow, I'm going to improve on this, and this is what I'm going to do to get there, and this is my resource for it, so that there is something to take place coming out of that conference. So, I'm going to practice. Told you you're going to dip your toes in everything today. So what I'd like for you to do is to take out 3 sticky notes, well actually take out 4 sticky notes each.
Can you come back to our table?
No, not yet.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. I know, it's painful to sit somewhere else. So 4 sticky notes each. Does anybody need more sticky notes? All right, what I want you to do is focus on the lesson that you discussed at your table. So this group is focusing on the language arts lesson that you scripted. This group is focusing on the stock market that you diagrammed, and then these 2 groups are focusing on the math lesson. Okay, so thinking of those lessons, on 1 sticky note, I want you to write a validating statement that you might make to that teacher in a post-observation conference. On another sticky note, a clarifying statement. On the 3rd sticky note, a stretch and apply. And then I want you to leave the 4th one blank. Use your language stems if you need them. Just a couple more minutes. You okay? Sure. Okay. All right, if you're still writing, keep writing, but I want to go ahead and start going over the instructions. So in a moment, we're going to get up and you're going to take your sticky notes. If you are in these two groups, you're going to use these three posters. So you're going to attach your validate, your clarify, your stretch and apply statements to the appropriate poster. Remember that validate does not always come first. So all 20 some of you do not have to go to validate and then walk over together to clarify. Stretch yourselves out. Whatever poster you go to last, stay at that poster. If you all are at the same poster, please distribute yourselves equally somewhat among the three posters. You'll have your blank Post-it note. Keep that handy with you. Okay, don't move yet. These two groups will use these posters, so validate, clarify, stretch, and apply on that side. You'll do the same thing, so spread yourselves out equally among the posters. You're going to need your 4 sticky notes and something to write with. Once you get to that last poster, I want you as a group to start processing what all the comments are. Okay, so read through all of the different sticky notes, and then I want you to organize them according to any emerging themes. So if you see things that kind of link together, then just like we did with the index cards yesterday where we put things together in stacks, I want you to stack those Post-it notes, and I want you to use your blank Post-it note to label the theme of that category. Do you understand? Do we have questions?
Yes, go again, please.
Go again? Okay. You're on this side. It is a lot. You're going to go to these 3 posters. Put your sticky notes up there. Whichever poster you stay at, equally distributed, whichever poster you stay at, you're going to work with that group of people to organize your Post-it notes into categories. And then you're going to use the blank Post-it note to name the theme that identifies that category. Okay? We're good? Stay at that poster because we'll talk from the posters next. Go ahead and move.
That is fine because you're going to put it on validate. When you get to the poster, that's when you're going to put them in groups.
Now you know what to do with them.
I just realized the triangle.
All right, so if 1 or 2 of you could make that stretch and apply group larger. Yeah, spread yourselves out equally among the posters. Excuse me. All right, John, will a couple of you come over to clarify?
You're back.
right, so read through all the Post-it notes.
Forget my glasses.
That might help. Yeah. Yeah.
So even, outside of project, is she open to her having help? This is not a PBL, but it's outside of the worksheet.
Like using some of the books and just strategies for teaching.
Does she have any help?
She just orders it.
Engaging with the students, it's not down to
That's a strategy. Questioning, the first names down. So that had to go to another strategy. I'm sorry. Grouping, I guess.
What parts of the lesson were where you most pleased? What works?
There was something that was
You like to have
that goes with this one, I think.
because you had more boys in the group help this lesson.
Or do we put grouping in our strategy, but I don't know.
In the future, we work
So now do we all fill out the?
You just hold tight. Let everybody catch up to you. Y'all in the first group finished. So once they catch up, we're going to do one more thing here, and then we'll go back. Yes, yes. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so what are we going to, I'll look at the movie. What are we going to call this? This is about what?
Yes, yeah. As soon as everybody's done, we'll talk. Got it?
Oh, Lord of mercy. When's it going away?
This weekend.
Friday. They said today, maybe Friday.
We all know that, yeah, right?
That's the part we need to focus on more after that.
This one was mine. I wanted him to go a step further. He did academic feedback. He did ask questions. Now, what kind of questions were they? Right. To clarify that.
So,
what kind of questions?
since we have feedback, would that be feedback? Or probing question?
Well, it's taking his feedback, and I want him to take it a step further. We could go there. Absolutely. And this one is evaluating understanding. So that's also feedback. Yes.
Yeah.
Like a little water don't grow, but
With the sprinkler, does it?
You okay?
Yeah, I smell like chicken. I had to get lotion.
Okay. All right. I know that it's going to be hard to hear me in such a big room. What I want to do is have each of the groups just call out what your labels are. So you're just telling me the actual labels. And I'm going to start over here and we'll just go around the room. So whoever wants to call out for the group.
Our labels are environment, engagement, strategy, and objectives, participation, and student ownership.
Thank you. Clarify?
We have feedback, understanding the activity, and then the environment / group.
Okay.
We have assessment, feedback, environment, and reflection.
Good.
We have charting, differentiating questions, mastery, and student engagement.
Great. Validate.
We had questioning technique and relatable content.
Okay. And last but not least.
Assessing student voice, looking at data, grouping, reflection, and strategies.
Good. What I hear is you connecting feedback to focus areas, to tool, to the rubric. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So you're making that connection. It's probably not comfortable and perfect and easy at this point, but the more you do it, the easier it will get. You have some things that don't quite fit the rubric. You're probably going to find that those fall under those descriptions for the indicators, so you'll probably see the language there. Not everything is always going to fit on that rubric. Sometimes it's like we just have this outlier and it's something we have to deal with the teacher, but it'll come into play at some point. So you're making those connections, you're using the rubric to guide the work, and I think that's so important. If you'll come back to your original seats, we'll finish up.
Where my chair went.
You're fine. Fine.
Will there be a central list of us somewhere? We just talked about a PLC yesterday.
Being able to
at some
connect?
point. Yeah.
We've never done that before. We could pass a sheet around and do it that way if you wanted.
Okay.
Okay. You remind me by the end of the day. Okay, so final thoughts. You've had so much information thrown at you. We have gone from foundations and fundamentals of understanding how to support teachers, why we need to support them, the actual process of developing a relationship, to the steps of the mentoring cycle. We're at that third step and really kind of solidifying that. We're going to still talk through this a little bit more, but I want you to think about particularly this step, but if you want to expand beyond that, it's perfectly fine. What is it that you think is the major takeaway at this point? Okay, so the major takeaway, and we're going to do just a tweet. If you're on Twitter and really want to tweet it out to the world, feel free. Our hashtag is mentoring SC teachers, and if you want to tag me, it's at STCody, K-O-T-Y. If you don't like Twitter, you don't like to be out there in the live world, you can do it in your book on whatever page it exists on. I can't remember. Somebody find the bird and tell me.
Are you talking this?
In the participant book. What page? 73. Page 73 of your book. I'm old school, so I would say 140 characters or less. I know Twitter is now 280, so if you just really need the extra characters, you can do that. But short and sweet, what's your major takeaway? Yes?
Mine's hashtag best practices, and I chose that because I'm seeing the best practices for us teaching our students are the best practices that we're doing for our mentors or mentees too. Questioning techniques, letting them figure it out themselves, reflection, following the rubric. So just like we use in our teaching, in our classroom, we should do that too.
Yeah, all the best practices of teaching match what we're doing for our mentors. We're differentiating, we're meeting their needs, right? Let's get another share out. I know some of you are still writing.
now how this can't make us better teachers.
Yeah.
Because we're technically mentoring our students and coaching our kids. So if you use the same kind of, like validate, if you use the same practices.
Absolutely. Not only will the tools and the things that we've done here make you better teachers, but working with these beginning teachers, you're going to learn from them as much as they're going to learn from you. Okay, so if you're open to that, you're going to grow through this process. So I love that. Let's one more key takeaway. Yes.
I think this affects the whole school environment when you have this relationship going on, and the vibrancy of a young new teacher or new teacher coming in, and then I just think it's going to help out the whole school environment.
Absolutely. Culture is so important, and having that supportive culture within the environment of the school and everybody being on the same team, right? That we're all there to support these new teachers because we want to retain them, we want to keep them, we don't want them running out the door. So we're going to invite them into our circles. We're going to make sure they're included in, whatever community building we have already established with our veteran teachers. Let's invite them in as well. We are going to take a 5-minute break. But if you have not signed in for today, I need you to do that so that I can get you checked in an Eventbrite so you get credit for being here. I'm assuming you all want credit for being here. So if you're on that list, make sure you do that. And if I don't have your green form, I need that as well. Okay, so 5-minute break. It is 2:38, so 2:43, we're back ready to rock and roll.